I welcome you with all my heart. Greetings. Let's play an imaginary scenario. You're now 7 or 8 months old in your mother's womb, snuggled up in a womb. There are no sights. You can feel the smooth sides of her womb. You can hear the sounds of her heart, the sounds coming from outside of her belly, maybe the television, her lover. You don't feel hungry yet. You're being fed intravenously. There you are, all wrapped up in yourself, your own little cocoon. And then something starts happening. You start getting squeezed. You feel a draft. Something's happening. The squeeze gets harder. You don't know what the hell's going on. You don't even know enough yet to be scared. The squeezing goes on. Big pressure on your head, on your shoulders, on your gut, your pelvis, being squeezed and pushed. And suddenly you feel cold all over. And you're outside of the room, in some place entirely different. Your eyes open, and you see light, not much else. You hear sounds. You don't hear your mother's heartbeat anymore. You hear voices, but you don't know what they are. You don't know anything yet. You don't even know enough to say, what the fuck is this? You have come alive. You've been alive. But you've been alive in a cocoon. Now you're a butterfly. All kind of sense data is coming in. It's all very confusing, but you don't feel confused because you don't know enough to be confused. It's just that there's an overwhelming amount of data coming in. And maybe the baby has some ways to regulate the intensity of that incoming data. But it certainly doesn't know. You don't know what's going on. A few days pass. All kinds of new experiences have happened to you. You don't know it yet, but you're shitting and peeing. And your new father is awfully offended by the smell, but you don't know that. You're seeing things and nothing still makes any sense. You feel hungry, but you don't have a label for that feeling yet. Somebody sticks a nipple in your mouth or onto a bottle. And you just know that every instant is different. It's flowing. You haven't recognized yet or come to the conclusion yet that sometimes you feel miserable and other times you feel quite pleasant and rested. After a few weeks, a few months, I don't know what the schedule is, you recognize your mother as something external to you. Later, your father. Later, you realize what hunger is. And maybe you can begin to verbalize in your future that you're hungry rather than just yelling in a certain way, crying in a certain way, your hunger crying, as opposed to your cold crying, or you're covered with shit crying. Gradually, the world takes on a shape to you and a meaning to you. You begin to learn how to walk. I remember when I was learning how to walk, how I go very fast and fall down forward. I kept running and falling down forward. One day I thought to myself, why am I always falling down when I'm running? And I looked at it and I saw that I was leaning too far forward. I was running into my balance rather than running from my balance. So I learned how to run without falling. These are major discoveries in the life of a 1.5-year-old, 2-year-old. I remember standing up underneath the table in my kitchen. And for the first time, I bumped my head on the table. I had stood under that table hundreds of times and never bumped my head. But I bumped it on a cross member, a brace underneath the bed, underneath the table, I should say. And from that time on, I learned to watch my head and what's over me. Painful way to learn. And so it goes for all of us. Then I started learning language. My mother taught me from comic books and other books by reading to me. I started to pretend to know how to write. And I pretended by writing scratches on a piece of paper as if I were writing a letter. I was practicing. Eventually I went to school, learned the alphabet, learned how to spell, how to write a sentence, how to read a sentence. And I progressed in school, going American history, world history, American government, arithmetic, spelling, reading, and some science. Gradually, the world began to make sense to me. I was becoming a young adult. I began to know about things. I learned that at one time people had thought the Earth was the center of the universe. And now we know it's a tiny planet revolving around a star that's nowhere near the center of the galaxy, which is nowhere near the center of the universe. I learned all about politics, Democrats, Republicans, now Trump. I learned about American government and how corrupt it had become. I learned about the Russian government and how even more corrupt it is. Now I know about the Saudi government, and they outdo both of the above in terms of corruption, murder, repression, death. Then I learned about Hitler, who topped them all. I learned about evil in the world and goodness in the world. and how America was supposed to be good. I learned all of these things. I learned about communism. I learned about revolution. I learned about good and evil. I learned about dreams. And gradually, the whole world began to make sense or not. But then I realized this world that I was born into was a travesty. It was a corrupt ball of shit that I didn't want to have anything to do with. I didn't want to take my place in the world as a professional. I wanted to stay as a student so I could figure the world out a little more. So I kept going to school for year after year after year, graduate school, economics, psychology, PhD program here, another PhD program somewhere else. And you know, although the world was fully formed, I didn't belong in that world. I didn't belong in the world that I had grown up in. It seemed so corrupt, so menial, so mundane, so filled with bullshit, lies, academics that had no conscience, reading about police departments that have no conscience, reading about governments that have no conscience, reading about constant murder and mayhem. And my own life was confused. And I began searching in spirituality at age 12. And then at 26, I decided to leave the PhDs and the academia and my life behind, become a wandering monk, so to speak. Then I graduated to Zen centers and following Zen masters, still not having a clue. Then I met Robert. And through him, I discovered simple beingness. No words, no concepts, no objects in my experience, no love, no emotions. I discovered basic beingness, the sense of being alive. One could call it the sense of being I am, I exist. In a sense, it's like being a 6-month-old baby again. You know almost nothing. You feel everything. You know nothing. And these sensations come and you really don't know what to make of them. You don't even at that time think of formulating them into a word or a concept. You just experience them rawly, without repression, without denial, without labeling them. This is simple beingness, the act of being sentient or aware, but not aware of anything. Or if you're aware of a thing, not having any reaction to it. What Krishna calls bare awareness. Robert calls the gap between waking and being asleep, where you're just aware without being aware of anything first thing in the morning, before your brain awakens and fills your whole universe with meanings and with objects. The gap has nothing but awareness. And I discovered just to rest in this awareness, which was absolute peace. Unfortunately, I rested there for 15 years. Just sitting, more or less. Every now and then doing something, like I think I went to Korea during this period of time. Visited the temples and the Zen masters there. Got a certificate that said I was the first American world teacher of Chogyek Zen Buddhism, Korean Zen Buddhism. And I should go home to America and start a new Buddhist school like Sansamin did. But I had discovered the most important secret of one half of spirituality, which is that everything in the world, everything in my experience arises out of me. Without my simple beingness, my simple sentience, ability to be aware, nothing would exist. I also learned that my labels, my ideas, my experiences impress upon the external reality a map of how things work. My map may be broken and wrong, so that I get it wrong a lot of times. But it gives meaning to the world and form to the world and a map to the world by which to operate. And when that map is screwed up, like it's screwed up by society, with all kinds of ideas about morality, way to be, ways not to be, which gets challenged in the world constantly. And you're always at war with somebody or something or other because their world is different from yours and you don't want to be contaminated because it just feels too wrong to have your basic assumptions challenged. Like Trump is challenging all of us now with his sick, corrupt world. So for 15 years, I rested in emptiness, watching the emptiness, the beingness. And I got bored. Very bored. It may be the superlative state of Nisargadatta and Ramana and Robert Adams. But ultimately, just being in beingness loses its magic after you've done it long enough. After you've seen all the permutations of beingness, all the changes taking place in beings. It was missing something. It was missing love. And love comes out of relationship. It's I love thou. It's not love existing in a vacuum. It's I as a person, Ed, loving another outside of me and feeling inside of me that love for my idea of the other. When I saw the other, I could love her directly. When I thought of her and had her image in my mind, I felt the love inside of me directed towards her. As that love grew, and the energy started popping up all over my body as the sexuality became transformed into Shakti experiences, radiating and circulating throughout my body and around my body and my sense of presence. Life took on an entirely different meaning. My life became one of worship and devotional love to another. Total devotional love. She was the total object of my existence, of my being, as I loved her and worshipped her. And she loved me and worshipped me. And my body and my sense of presence exploded in energies, in yearnings, in desire, in sexuality, in quivering energies throughout my whole body and sense of being. I became totally alive, until one day, that which made me come alive, that which first invaded my body when I was still in my mother's womb, the life force, showed itself to me, ad musica, as an incarnation of the life force in one body and one person, and showed me its universal form, so to speak, as light and energy, as Shakti and power, as a form that looked like moving electricity, of white lightning. And I realized this, for all intents and purposes, was God, because the power it had was thousands of times anything I had ever experienced in my life. And I knew this is what I was bowing to, my beloved woman, the life force in her. Love of another individual as a human became transformed into love of God, the universal life force. And has stayed with me. Now I can worship it in anybody. Worship the life force in you. I can bow to you. I can love you. I gotta tell you, it's easier for me to do that with women than it is with men. But it's possible with everybody. To feel the life force in myself, and then to see it and feel it in you through my own sense of presence, which reaches out to you in your body, and I feel you within there. I worship the life force within you. Now, can you feel the life force in me? Can you feel love for the life force in me as you feel the life force within yourself, reaching out through your heart towards me? Can you feel the descent of grace from above? And the heart energy coming into you, your heart, from me? We are all connected in this way. We're all the life force. The life force manifested in Maria, in Max and Enrique, Vaselina, Spencer, Ken, B, DJ, Steve, Karstens, Coy, Michael, Mohammed. Nikki, I guess that is. And you just feel the baby life force in you, your basic sentience, your basic awareness, your basic beingness, without everything added on. Just a quiet sense of being, not needing anything, in peace. Feeling that in yourself, and then looking at me or listening to me, and feeling inside of you the devotion to the life force inside of you, and a devotion to the life force inside of me. And then you look at Max, or Spencer, or Ken, or Maria, or Vesselina, or VJ. VJ, move your head. Move your head, VJ. Move it like that. Now, how does he do that? He doesn't know how. He just does it. That's the life force in him, keeping his body alive, keeping him wanting more of the life force, keeping him wanting more of the electricity and the Shakti rushing through him, just as you probably want more of the life force being aware inside of yourself. But Vijay still is scared of his sexuality, so he's cut off from a major power source. For those of us who are not, feel it. If you feel your sexuality, it's so much easier to light up the rest of your body by using your sexuality or your heart to send energy to your throat, to your third eye, to the crown of your head. And feel energies moving up in that place between your anus, your sex organ, the perineum, upwards in an imaginary tube through the womb or lower abdomen, your upper abdomen, into your heart, upwards into your throat, into the third eye, and then into the brain, circulating downwards outside of your body, and entering again the perineum, upwards to the brain, circulating around. White energy, white light, circulating around. Going upwards during the in-breath, downwards during the out-breath. So if you slow your breathing, you can increase the intensity of the flow of the energy inside of you and outside of you. And you can luxuriate in the feel of your body. Feel your toes and feet tingle when you concentrate on them. Feel your legs with this kind of ecstatic energy of concentration and focus. Feel your sexuality. Feel your balls and your penis, your vagina. And feel the tension, the power in there, the desire in there, the desire to do, to act, to take or receive. When your tension, you take it upwards. You take that energy of sexuality into your stomach, your womb, your stomach, and then into your heart. And your whole body begins to sing. You take it upwards into your throat, into your face, into the head, the third eye, and the brain. And your whole body can be filled with ecstatic energy that flows or just stays still and radiates outwards into your sense of presence, filling it out and making it 10 feet tall. This is an exercise you can practice over and over again, of having the energy enter the perineum, flowing through a tube, connecting your womb, or your lower belly, the hara, with above the belly button, abdomen, through your diaphragm, into your heart, staying there for a second, radiating there for a second, going upwards, further into your throat, your third eye. Feel the energy in your third eye. Feel your eyes come alive even if they're shut. Continue upwards into your brain. If you've done this